Jacob's hip, there's a brokenness in us, in our lives, that God doesn't take away, that God keeps. It's a reminder to us to lean on Him, to trust in Him, and to give thanks. The other thing I would just say is this. I think God also does this because it does help us to give thanks unto the Lord. You know, when I was in my 20s and I went back to Korea, I went to a town that my father was pastoring at the time when I was born and my sister was born. And so I went up with one of his close friends, and he's like, hey, that's actually the place where you lived when you were born. I was like, oh, cool, can we go see it? Right? And I'm thinking like, okay, it'll be like an apartment building, whatever else. It's not. It's like this small little room with a sliding door. Right? The bathroom's outside, it's an outhouse. Right? Outside is little holes where you wash your face and brush your teeth, all that stuff, whether it's winter or summer. No heating, no cooling, nothing. And I'm thinking to myself, 4 of us lived in this small, dinky little room. My mom washed her hands, washed my diapers, right, in the middle of winter, right? Cleaning up that poop with this ice-cold water. And there was something about recognizing and remembering and seeing that moment that caused me to pause and say, God, thank you for what you have done, how far you've brought us along. And I want to say the other thing about sometimes why God leaves these broken moments in our lives is because it's a reminder to us of how God is still faithful and working. Because like me, I realized something spiritually, I need to do that all the time. I need to remember my broken self. God, you know what, before I knew you, before I met you, this is who I was. I was arrogant, prideful, egotistical person that thought he could go to heaven without you. Right? I was self-righteous, judgmental. These are all the things I was angry and impatient. I yelled all the time. I threw things all the time. I had temper tantrums all the time. Right? This is who I was before I met you. And then you completely changed and transformed my life. And sometimes these moments of brokenness remind me of my old self. And I give thanks. I'm like, God, thank you for what you have done, how far you brought me along. And so I want to just encourage you and challenge you, brothers and sisters, when we leave this place, and we leave this place with sufferings and hardships and struggles and challenges, and we experience victory, man, that is powerful. That is God's grace. But when we leave this place, and like Jacob's hip, we are still broken and struggling and suffering and having hard times, that's still God's grace. It's God's grace. It's a way for us to continue to remember Him, acknowledge Him, lean on Him, to remember Him in all the days of our lives. And that's one thing I've learned is that whether this or that, what a wonderful thing it is, what a blessing it is, as long as it is from the Lord, whether victory or suffering. I'm going to ask you just to rise with me, and we're going to pray. Oh, sorry, you don't have to rise, sorry, you have to just praise me, come up. So let's take some time to pray. Let's pray that we would remember the brokenness of who we were. And let's give thanks for the grace of God of who He's transformed us to be. Maybe there's certain brokenness in your life that you've been praying for, and maybe the Spirit of the Lord is going to tell you, encourage you, keep on praying for that. Or maybe the Spirit of the Lord is going to challenge you, can you give thanks for that brokenness? Right? But whether victory or whether continued suffering, let's learn to give thanks and receive God's grace and blessing. And then let's pray for a blessing, prayer blessing for ourselves and our loved ones, that like Jacob, we can have a renewed understanding of what true blessing is. Right? And that we can pray for that blessing for our loved ones, our children as well. So let's pray these two things for a quick bit, and then we're going to just kind of sing maybe the chorus and bridge of the closing song.